for you tonight. Vice President Dr. Bawumia has been trying to defend government's management of the ailing economy today at a TESCON event. Inflation has skyrocketed over the past few months. Prices of goods and services keep going up. The country is saddled with high debt. Recently, we were downgraded by credit rating agencies. And the local currency is currently ranked second worst performing in Africa. These are some of the issues the leader of government's economic management team has been trying to address at that event. You just saw a picture of it. But did he do a good job? Joining me is partner at accounting firm Deloitte Ghana Yaolate to discuss. So as we expected, the usual talking points, Yao, to do with the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. Those were reasons he cited for where we are now. Does that sell?
Yeah, so I think good evening to you, your viewers and your listeners. So I think I've followed the speech from the Vice President. He's attempted to address a lot of the issues that people have asked questions on. I guess for most of the pre-COVID achievements, he did an excellent job. He explained the key drivers of the economy, the key factors that move the economy and activities pre-COVID. And I think that has been excellent. For me, some of these points and the explanation and the commentary are coming too late in the day. So for instance, the government gave a trajectory of projects that have been executed with some of the debt that has been contracted by government. The question that we've been asking, for all these loans, all these borrowings that we have been incurring, what have they been used for? And I think these explanations are coming too late in the day because this question has been asked several times and we are now getting answers to. I think pre-COVID explanation has been excellent. All the trajectory, especially comparing with previous government, I think we know the Vice President, he's so good at it. What we haven't seen well explained is the post-COVID challenges that we are having at the moment. So we are having quite a number of post-COVID challenges, and we do not expect the reason that we are getting now, or the explanation that we are getting now, to be the factors or the main reason why we are having some of these post-COVID challenges. For me, what is important is the average Ghanaian wants to know how some of the policies that have been outlined by government in the 2022 budget, and also the revenue and expenditure measures that have been outlined by the Minister of Finance, is going to improve the situation for them. It's going to create employment. It's going to increase the availability of funds and money in their pockets. And I think for me, that has not come out too well. And some of the explanations that have been given, there have been an attempt to compare our situations with some developed economies, particularly citing the Russia-Ukraine war. Yes, indeed, developed economies like UK, Spain, and others are all going through various challenges. But there are some other indicators that some of these countries are doing much better than we are doing. And so to compare them when the situation is worse, but some positive indicators that we have there, we do not have them, I guess we're probably not comparing too well. And that's something that I don't think we've probably been addressed well in that speech.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing to that, basically because one of the issues with comparison, for instance, with the previous government, it was as if to say it's the COVID-19 pandemic, it's the Russia-Ukraine crisis that have brought these challenges. But the previous government also had to deal with some external factors. For instance, we're just recovering from the global financial crisis. There was a collapse of the crude oil market. So you hear the NDC say, we also had challenges then, but we're not putting up these excuses. And it's like you're using these factors to explain away your inability to manage the economy.
Yeah, so I think that's a point well noted. But the fact still remains, which I agree with the Vice President, that the impact of COVID cannot be compared with any financial crisis that we've had in the last few years. COVID had devastating impact not only on Ghana, but economies all over. So COVID, I cannot link it even to 2008 financial crash, had some impact. But for developing economies like us, the 2008 financial crisis did not really have a lot of impact like COVID did. So COVID had devastating impact, and that's a fact that's incontrovertible. For us in Ghana, I think the challenge that we are having now is post-COVID crisis and the recovery plan. During the COVID period, we had a lot of reliefs. We did a lot of things. We overspent. We suspended our Fiscal Responsibility Act and incurred a budget deficit that was way above the cap of 5%. The problem, or something that we highlighted at the time, was that if you continue to overspend and we are not careful, it's going to take a longer time to recover. And we are beginning to experience that, because there were some expenditures that, in our view, they were not expenditures that were helping to recover. They were not helping to mitigate the challenges that businesses and individuals were facing. So some of the freebies that were given, some of the incentives and the reliefs that were given to people that did not really need them. Were given to business that did not need these freebies. So all of those compounded the situation, and then today we are having to take some time to recover. And I think lessons learned. When we do have challenges, we have to look at the areas that critically need them. And I think when we were even highlighting the revenue and expenditure measures, one of the points that we made to government was that we are not just interested in cutting expenditure. We should focus on cutting expenditure that will add value to the economy. Cut recurrent expenditure on things that do not add value, we can easily cut them. But expenditure that's supposed to stimulate growth, if we cut them, you will not have the impact. And I think if we do not prioritize our expenditure cuts, if we do not prioritize the things that we spend money on, then we're going to have the vicious cycle of incurring budget deficits and having to go through a fiscal consolidation and even sign on to external programs like the IMF and so on and so forth. We do not want to go through that vicious cycle. That has to stop at some point.
Right, and it's also true that before these external factors, the economy was doing well. In fact, we're considered a rising star in Africa. And so at the end of his presentation, the Vice President wants to convince us that the good fundamentals of our economy is strong. Remember the famous statement from him that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Yeah, and so do you think that, in fact, I heard him say the fundamentals of the economy are still strong. Do you agree with that perception?
That's a very interesting one. And so today we are having a depreciating local currency or depreciating cedi because of the fundamentals that we have not addressed. And it is not just this government. Historically, there are some economic fundamentals that we have not addressed with a pragmatic policy. So if you continue to manage the stability of our local currency with, let's say, contracting of external loans, so if we syndicate loans or we go for external loans, and that helps stabilize the cedi for about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then the cedi start depreciating again. For how long will you continue to rely on external funding to stabilize our local currency? So I think our extensive reliance on imports, our dollarization of our economy, these are the fundamentals that are really causing the depreciation of local currency. And I think the new policy or new directive by Bank of Ghana, for instance, is a laudable policy. So long as we are going to follow them through to implement them, our economy has been dollarized so much that everything is pegged to the dollar. And so if the cedi depreciating, there will be significant increase in price of goods and services because we are still pegging goods and services to the dollar. If we do not address those fundamental issues, then we will continue to have the problem that we are having. Our economy is import-driven. We import virtually everything, and that thing has been overemphasized. We've heard it so many times. We still rely on a lot of import for most of our basic things. That problem has to be addressed. And if we are not addressing these fundamental problems, and we are relying on us pumping dollar into the market, relying on contracting external loans, euro bonds to manage our cedi, then these are short-term measures, and we will continue to be in that vicious cycle of having our local currency depreciate and we going for external facility to manage the risk.
I don't know if the Vice President spoke about the cedi. an e-levy as I was preparing to come on the air, but I just wanted to find out finally, do you think, from what you heard so far, is this reassuring to the private sector and the investor community what the Vice President has said today?
Yeah, so I think to a large extent, there is some assurance, and that we admit. There is some level of assurance. And the reason I say this is on two fronts. So the first one is the digitization of the economy. We have managed to digitize the economy. We are going to a unified common platform to identify individuals and transactions, where we are listed Ghana card for banking transactions, for business transactions, for online payment transactions. The problem we've had in the past is that we've had all manner of digitization, but we were not speaking to each other. This is the time for us to write on digitization to increase our revenue. If you write on the digitization that we are implementing to increase our revenue, you will have the benefits. The second reason is that we have e-levy, and the scope and coverage of e-levy has moved away from predominantly mobile money transactions to banking transactions, online business transactions. And I think there are some business transactions of foreign entities that are operating here. People are utilizing their services, but we are not paying taxes. And I think that is a good step, and it's a significant milestone to bring in some entities that were outside the tax bracket because they were doing online transactions into the tax bracket. The problem is we should clearly let Ghanaians know which transactions are affected by the e-levy and which transactions are not. Otherwise, there will be adverse behavior where people will stop online transactions, people will stop online payment platforms because they think they are going to be affected by e-levy. Whereas in actual fact, those transactions do not even attract the e-levy. So I think that education needs to go down well with the needs, and then make sure that we get the benefit of e-levy.
All right.
E-levy has come to stay in the event that is not maybe some court action does not stop it. It has come to stay. What we need to do is to ensure that online transactions remain as high, and people who are vulnerable are excluded from the adverse impact of these taxes.
All right. Thank you so much, Yao Latte. As always, appreciate your time with us. That was partner Deloitte, Yao Latte, on the Vice President's presentation at TESCON today. Now,